Hello everyone, happy Hispanic Heritage Month. To celebrate this monumentous occasion, I am making a traditional Mexican dessert, the Tres Leches cake. For when dos leches are not enough and cuatro leches is too many. Here we go. As per usual, we're going to butter and flour our dish, a 9 by 13 baking dish. Okay, we're starting off with a cup and a half of flour and 1 teaspoon of baking powder. Easy. Okay, we're actually going to set that bowl aside and move on to our second bowl with 1 cup of sugar and a stick of butter. And unfortunately, my stick of butter was not soft enough. Don't be like me. Use a very nice soft stick of butter. Then we're adding half a teaspoon of vanilla extract and then 5 eggs, if you can believe it, 5 whole eggs, mixing them up after each one. So you can see here the eggs are getting incorporated and the butter is still quite lumpy because it was too cold. Don't be like me, this is a baking fail. But at any rate, we're going to start incorporating our flour baking powder mixture into the wet ingredients, a couple batches at a time. You don't need to overmix it, just once it's barely incorporated, you're good to go. And then we're going to pour it into our buttered and floured 9 by 13 baking dish, and as you can see, this dough is very difficult to work with. It's very thick, it's very sticky, it doesn't spread very easily. This is another issue I ran into, unfortunately. Make sure you do a good job spreading it as evenly as possible, getting it into all the 4 corners before you put it into the oven. Okay, and into the center of our 350-degree oven for 30 minutes. In my case, it only took 25, so you may want to set the timer for 25 or even 20 and just check it periodically. But the recipe calls for 30, which was too much in my case. And here it is after 30 minutes, taking it out, and you can see it's already quite done. And since we have that toothpick out, let's go ahead and start poking the whole thing all over. We need as many holes as possible. Turn this thing into a pin cushion because we need a bunch of little holes for all that delicious leche to go straight into. Perfect. Okay, and speaking of which, while the cake is cooling completely, we can make the milk mixture. We have a 14-ounce can of evaporated milk, a 12-ounce can of sweetened condensed milk, and 2 cups of milk. And then we're just going to kind of mix it all together. And once again, in my case, I didn't need all of this. I ended up pouring it all onto the cake, but I ended up draining a bit of it because it was too much. But your mileage may vary. Here I am pouring it all over the cooled cake. Once again, very important, cool this thing down completely before you pour it on. And this is my favorite part. You can see all the milk going down into the little holes, and it's so much fun. Lots of bubbles. Blub, 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 blub. So we'll just let that do its thing on the counter for maybe 20 or 30 minutes. Okay, so here's quite a fast forward. This is actually taken the next morning. What you want to do after you've let the cooled cake soak up the milk for about half an hour on the counter is actually wrap it in some tin foil and put it in the refrigerator for at least a few hours. I did mine overnight, and once again I ended up checking it 4 or 5 hours after I put it in the fridge, and I removed about half a cup of the liquid that just hadn't soaked in, and then I let the remainder go in overnight. And on to the final and most important step, the whipped cream topping. We're starting with a cup and a half of heavy whipping cream. And then we are also going to add a teaspoon of vanilla extract. And we're going to get that whipped up in a bowl a little bit. And something to note, the recipe calls for 1 cup of sugar, which is way too much in my experience. Unless you like it quite sweet, I used just under half a cup, and the topping was perfect in my opinion. But that's up to you, however you like it. I like it a bit less sweet. So we have it about half whipped here. You can see it's got some good keeping its shape. And then, yeah, it looks terrific. Nice and fluffy. You don't want to over whip it. This is the consistency you want. And then pour it in over the cake. Get it nice and spread over. Looking beautiful. I chose to top mine with some cinnamon. You could do cocoa. You could do some fresh fruit like some strawberries. And there you have it. The Tres Leches cake is finished. Bon appetit and enjoy. Thank you.